still here? Right here? Yes. I was thinking this might block it a little bit.
Are we all here?
Okay, almost.
You're just hilarious. That's what you are.
I do what I can. So I think the agenda.
The boys were cute on Saturday. That was fun to see you guys there.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed talking to Allison. She and I have never really sat down and talked before. So
It's always nice to know.
Motion for
Always something's going on.
always bothered. And like the few times we've really been around each other,
It's
like in on
They're
mode.
depressed,
like there's my doctor's
Is anything written on that sheet, Patricia?
Definitely enjoyed.
Okay,
So that's the most I think we're going to start. We're recording.
No, it definitely was. It was just nice to.
We're live.
Good evening. I am calling the meeting of January the 14th. Is this 14th? School board meeting to order. Oh, I'm reading. I will now read the public charge. The Orange County Board of Education pledges to its citizens to conduct its business in a courteous and productive manner, showing respect for fellow board members, staff, and citizens. The board asks its citizens to conduct themselves with the same courtesy toward both school personnel and each other. As per board policy, Robert's Rules of Order will be used to conduct meetings. A moment of silence will be observed before each meeting. The board asks that you check your cell phones and electronic devices to be certain that they're either turned off or on vibrate to avoid interruption from the meeting. And I shouldn't have to say that every time, so let me turn mine off. Like, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Dr. Superintendent, do we have any recognitions this evening?
We do. I'll call Mr. Stevens to the podium.
Tonight's recognition comes from is directed towards a particular very important group of individuals who function not only as individuals but as a duly elected board, and that would be this Board of Education. Oh. This is National School Board Recognition Month. So, first, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a picture of all of you and tweet you out in your elected duties. We appreciate you. There we go. And then next, we're updating. This is a little bit different, you know. Next, I'd also like to recognize two board members in particular. The North Carolina School Board Association does have a major goal of being able to provide growth opportunities and professional development for school board members. This includes the statutory requirements of training hours to be completed at 12 clock hours every 2 years, but also a minimum of 30 hours training annually as provided and acknowledged by the North Carolina School Board Association. Today I'm bringing certificates recognizing two board members. There are different levels of recognition when it comes to recognition from the North Carolina School Board Association. That first level is the Certificate of Recognition. That is achieved at 30 hours. So many of our newly elected board members will be receiving that soon. Next is their Certificate of Merit, which is 31 to 100 hours. The next is their Certificate of Achievement, which is 101 to 200 hours. 201 to 300 hours receives the Certificate of Advanced Achievement, it's almost like AP. 301 to 400 hours is the Award of Excellence. 401 to 500, the Award of Distinction. 501 to 600, the Diploma of Honor. 601 to 700, Bronze Award. 701 to 800 hours, Silver Award. 801 to 900, Gold Award, and more than 901 hours qualifies an individual to be in the Scholars Circle. Our first recognition goes to board member Dr. Stephen Halkiotis, who has received the Award of Excellence for 301 to 400 hours.
I feel old.
You're excellent.
Then our second recognition goes to board chair Brenda Stevens for the more than 900 hours in training, which qualifies her for the Scholars Circle.
I'm a scholar. noted.
And on behalf of staff and all of the students and families of Orange County Schools, we thank all of you, our board, Orange County Schools Board of Education, for leading the way in so many things for our students and our staff and for representing our community diligently. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got a comment.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to thank you for doing that and thank the staff and the superintendent. I got to tell you, if you all didn't tell me this tonight, I wouldn't know
You didn't know that.
that it was school board appreciation, whatever. Because there's so much horrible news on the news every day. I just saw a breaking news, a highway patrolman was shot in Wilson County tonight. It's just one bad event after the other. So thank you for recognizing us, because psychic rewards in this business are very important.
Yeah.
There's certainly
I
people at
agree.
this table are not in it for the money.
No, not in Orange County. All right, so.
And I'll just add to it, because I've been around the state and worked with school boards and stuff, and that my experience with the Orange County Board of Education has been one of absolute engagement and caring and excellence. I mean, this is an incredibly engaged Board of Education, not a rubber stamp board, but one that really wants to know what's going on and to try to better the educational experience in Orange County.
Thank you so much. So next, I am calling for the agenda adoption. I can get a motion.
Move adoption of the agenda as shown.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So adopted. Thank you very much. And now, we do not have public comment, so we'll go directly into board comment. And Mr. McKnight, we will start with you.
No report.
And move on around. Do you have?
Yeah, I've got a couple of
Okay.
comments. I wanted
Looking
to
for-
thank the board members, and there were 6 of us that were able to be at the budget committee meeting last
Mhm.
Friday. I thought it was an extremely important meeting. It was excellent presentations on the part of both Ron Rath and our soon-to-be departed Patrick Aberley, who's still here with us tonight. You gotta give Mr. Aberley credit as a trooper.
Yeah.
He's still with us till 12 midnight, so if you want to extend
We're
this
gonna,
meeting.
the board meeting will extend.
He's probably got plenty of stuff to tell us. Also wanted to thank the superintendent, Mr. Aberley, for the student reassignment presentation we had this past week. I thought, last week it was excellent. Lord willing, I'll be at the MLK banquet Saturday afternoon at 4. And hopefully, if the Lord gives me a few more days, I'll be at the march Monday morning. I have never been in one of those marches where it hasn't been at least 25
so
or
30
degrees.
degrees.
It's always cold.
Just
So
huddle with us.
Bundle up, you'll need gloves, a scarf, boots, woolen socks, and a hat. Those things are all critically important. But I want to wish all of you a very happy and healthy New Year's for you and your family, because that's the most important gift that anybody can give you, your health and happiness. And for those of you who are traveling, please be careful and be safe. There's crazy stuff going on all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Will?
Just a few additions. I was able to attend the Cameron Park Holiday Concert. It was an amazing event. They live streamed it. Tickets only to get in. It was an amazing performance by a lot of great kids. Also got a chance to go to the Orange High School JV girls and boys basketball game versus East Chapel Hill. It was a great game. They did win. So it was great to go see that. And then also I got a chance to do my first tour of the Grady Brown Elementary School. So great facility, great staff, great location.
Yeah.
So I was very pleased to do that.
I also attended the budget committee meeting, thought it was very beneficial, really nice. Today I attended the Orange County Mental Health Committee meeting, collaboration between Orange and Chapel Hill Carville. Just starting on that, so a lot on that. Student assignment, I thought that was well done.
My report is very similar to Dr. H's. I just wanted to touch on the student assignment session we had, and I just was really heartened to hear that the board unanimously put student achievement at the top of our priority list in terms of how we're going to draw our attendance lines as we redistrict. And just want to say to the public, we really want this process to be transparent and welcome comments from folks during this process. And just mention that my personal number is on the county's website if parents wish to reach out directly to talk about anything. And then I also was going to mention the MLK events this weekend, and I hope people will join us for the banquet at 4 o'clock on Saturday and march on Monday morning outside the old courthouse. Thanks.
I also thought the student assignment meeting was a really good discussion. The budget meeting was very informative. I am sad to be missing the MLK events this weekend because I'm going to be out of town, but I hope that everybody has a really fulfilling and reflective MLK weekend. And that's about all I have to say.
All right, well, you missed one thing.
What did I forget?
You attended the oratorical contest.
I did, yes.
I know you
it was
did.
fantastic.
Oh,
You're going to
well,
talk about it.
So was that great? You forgot.
It was so great.
So we both attended the oratorical contest at Mount Bright, and our students were outstanding.
It was beautiful.
Outstanding. And the student reassignment, of course, was thank you for the hard work. The North Carolina Association of School Administrators and the North Carolina School Boards Association legislative boards had a joint legislative agenda meeting on January the 3rd, and I attended that. And one item of advocacy is the resolution that is on our agenda tonight. Additionally, last month when I was a speaker at the NAACP meeting, I asked, they asked, what could they do to help us? And I suggested the calendar flexibility resolution, and they accepted, and I talked to the North Carolina School Boards Association, and the only ask that they had was that a language in the section that mentions summer learning be adjusted. And so our local NAACP will pass a resolution and deliver it to Raleigh, and I understand perhaps it will go on to the state level, thanks to us. So, and in light of what went on in Buncombe County, we're talking about legislative agendas still. The school finance officers should be provided the same opportunity for dismissal procedures as all other employees, and have the same contractual terms as associate and assistant superintendents. So this would provide the necessary whistleblower protection when unusual need arises. So that's one of the items in the legislative, and it's our joint legislative agendas. And the budget meeting was very productive, and I really appreciate everything that went on there. And kudos and thanks to the maintenance staff for the wonderful send-off for Patrick. You know, although every goodbye ain't gone, as they say. So you're not gone yet, but it was a great event up at the garage, and we look forward to seeing you around. Yeah, at least to midnight. Thanks, Dr. Wirt.
Thank you. Last week we celebrated National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day by showing our thanks to the men and women of the Orange County Sheriff's Office for the incredible support that they provide our system. As always, I'm forever grateful for the relationship and friendship that I have with Sheriff Blackwood and his team. It was a lot of fun going over to see him that day and thanking him, and I know Seth and his team worked hard to recognize our SROs that day as well. If I could take my time to say a few nice words about the board as well. We are very fortunate, as Jonathan said, in our district to serve a Board of Education that deeply cares about our students and the staff that serve our students each and every day. These 7 individuals are elected by our community to provide vision and direction for our system and to hold me accountable to ensure their vision is realized. They devote a lot of time and energy to the work of being a Board of Education member and spend many more hours on the work of the system than most boards that I know or have come in contact with in the last 20 years. I'm grateful for each of them, their commitment, their sacrifice, and their support. Throughout this month, we've got some ideas on several things that we'll be doing to recognize you in the community and maybe at our next board meeting as well. I do want to say good luck to our high school students this week that are taking exams. Big week with semester exams. We're thankful the weather did not impact those this week, and we're able to get those in. And lastly, he will spend the majority of the night at the podium, but I wanted to take my opportunity to thank Mr. Ivory for his service to Orange County Schools. I have given several speeches at this point honoring Mr. Ivory, and he has just done an incredible job. His commitment and sacrifice to our system will be felt in a positive way for a very long time into the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Yes. All right, so now if I could get a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh,
Will?
we work quicker than that.
So,
Should have voted immediately.
No.
So the only thing I'd like to say on the consent agenda is I'd just like to highlight that we've had over $1,000 in total in donations to several schools to support student meal accounts that have been in need, and I think that's a great showing of the community engagement, and it's on the consent agenda, and I know that the public doesn't necessarily read it, but I just want to take time to thank everybody that donates to that. It means a lot.
That's very
Thanks for
important.
sharing
Well, that's
that,
very
Will.
good
Thanks,
discussion.
Will.
That's good.
Very good discussion. So everybody's like, oh my God, all right, so all in favor of this motion? Aye. Opposed? All right, so we have a consent agenda. We have to keep it rolling so Will won't change his mind. Okay, so I'm just teasing. So now we have the resolution that I mentioned, and I've asked Hillary if she would please read the resolution for us.
All right. Resolution supporting local control of school calendars. Whereas the North Carolina General Statutes give local boards of education powers of supervision and control of local school systems, and whereas local control over establishing school calendars is an integral component of school system supervision and administrative powers with which local boards of education have been vested, and whereas in 2004 the North Carolina General Assembly seized control of setting school calendars and imposed a one-size-fits-all mandate on how school calendars are to be set, and whereas the current one-size-fits-all school calendar start date is no earlier than the Monday closest to August 26th, and the end date is no later than Friday closest to June 11th, and whereas the state mandated late August start date means high schools do not complete the first semester until mid to late January, and whereas the current law essentially requires high school students to take first semester exams after winter break, which negatively impacts test scores according to students and educators, and whereas the second semester for high schools starts 2 to 3 weeks later than community colleges and universities, and whereas superintendents report that the calendar misalignment makes it nearly impossible for high school students or recent winter graduates to take courses at nearby community college or university during the second semester, and whereas exams for advanced placement and international baccalaureate classes are given on the same day nationwide, and the current calendar law shortens the amount of time North Carolina students have to learn the material before test day, and whereas it is well documented through multiple studies that children will experience a phenomenon known as summer learning loss, which has a disproportionate impact on low-income children, and whereas long summer breaks can also negatively impact child nutrition, as low-income children who have access to regular meals at school through the free and reduced priced meal program may not have access to regular meals at home, and whereas with little flexibility built into the calendar, scheduling makeup days is extremely challenging, and whereas major hurricanes and severe winter snowstorms have caused Orange County schools to miss 17 days over the past 3 years, and whereas Orange County Schools was only able to make up 12 missed days over the past 3 years, whereas fall sports and band begin August 1st, schedules for extracurriculars have not changed to coincide with the state-mandated school calendar, and whereas local boards of education are best equipped to understand the balancing act of meeting the community's needs and maximizing student success, and whereas restoring local control of school calendars will allow local boards of education to best meet the calendar preferences of the families, educators, and businesses in our community, while allowing for innovative experimental approaches to improve student achievement. Therefore, be it resolved that the Orange County Schools Board of Education requests that the Orange County Board of Commissioners pass a resolution in support of calendar flexibility.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So you all know, you all see this is an action item. And if we approve this, then it's gonna go to the county commissioners, and I've already spoken, to many of them. And we're going with the Chapel Hill schools, cause I thought that this might be an opportunity of something that we
that's good.
both can agree on and go together.
Would you explain what you said earlier about when you, in your meeting with the NAACP, there was an issue about summer learning loss? What exactly
Oh,
was
not
that?
an issue. Leanne asked that would, be added to their resolution.
Oh, to the NAACP, so, yeah. I think,
Yeah.
because I think, those two whereases, the summer learning loss and long summer breaks negatively impact child nutrition are very important.
Very important.
And you know, a lot of systems are sending buses out with food in them for children to be able to eat at least a lunch
Right.
during those summer breaks. So I think that's good.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing that meeting and
Yes.
getting the rest of everybody on board.
And well, I just thought it would be, because there are about 5 school districts that's already passed this, but I had spoken to, a few county commissioners at a reception before Christmas, and to see how they felt about it. And then I also spoke with the Chapel Hill school board members to see how they felt about it, that this is something we all could agree on. So
Yes.
Orange County could send one to Raleigh.
Sounds good.
Yes, sir.
So just to be a stickler,
All right.
could we do that by motion, second, and approval?
Yes,
So
that's why I
moved.
said all in favor, I'm sorry.
That's
Sorry.
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. So the next item on the agenda, oh, well, we're getting started, aren't we? The capital investment plan. So, the star of the show. That's fine. We can take all the time you
You
need.
got till 12.
You have till
Till
midnight.
And then you're on volunteer now.
Yeah, let's see. Let me get to my.
I know we're gonna talk about the 10-year capital investment plan, and I'll give a little bit of a lead-in to the plan and develop. This was not in your packet, but this is a little technology that we employed last year for the geothermal project at Orange High School. This is just a short little video clip. What you're looking at is the football practice field that's adjacent to the agricultural center. We have our neighborhood just north of the field here. And what you'll see going through, and I'll kind of just talk as I click this because it's a short video. But what you're going to see is about 7 months worth of work. That should be.
Is it gender neutral?
Okay, there it is. And you'll see some well drilling taking place. Those are vertical wells being put in the ground. There'll be a short pause here in December. You'll see a snowstorm to blanket us out.
How many wells?
250 wells. That's a 7-month clip there, just very briefly
Wow.
to show you. 250 wells, approximately 400 feet deep. 249 of those wells will be put in service. One of those wells was a test well, and we may or may not tie that into the system. There are a few extra wells that's obviously built in for redundancy, but a great project. We did certainly a positive communication program with the neighborhood, with the community. We had signs out before the project started. We did over 500 mailings to all the residents and homeowners and landowners surrounding Orange High School. And I just want to say thank you to the community, to the board, to all the folks who were involved, the engineers and the workers, because it was an incredible amount of work done in a short period of time, but all the drilling has stopped and we're no longer putting vertical wells in. The next phase of that project will begin where they'll start tying the wells together, and then eventually this coming spring there'll be a new layer of playing field that'll be put back down and a new irrigation on the field as well. But I just wanted to show you what we're doing is we have some large-scale capital projects. We're trying to capture those both for archival video purposes, but also for pictures as well, and then we can share that with not only you, but we can keep it for our records and our documentation and share with the community also. And that's just a quick example of that. So what we're going to talk about on this agenda item is the 10-year capital investment plan. That's one of the previous projects that's being funded primarily through bond dollars in order to upgrade the HVAC systems at Orange High School. What we have before us is a 10-year capital plan. We're going to primarily talk about year one this evening. Although we have a 10-year capital plan that's forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners to fund our capital projects on an annual basis, we try to plan out projects up to 10 years. The most critical time period is obviously the first 5 years. That's why you see those in white. Years 6 through 10 are shaded in blue because those projects, obviously being years out, are subject to change both by need and by priority. We do list projects for those 5 years, but again, we're only funded 1 year at a time with our capital plan. I have noted on the plan, and I'm just going to walk through several of the items, a couple exciting projects that we've added for fiscal year 20 for next year. One of those, you recall, several months ago, we talked about an outdoor learning lab for exceptional children and students of special needs at A.L. Stanback Middle School. We've devoted, with our capital investment plan, $25,000 to help begin the initial funding and get that program started. And then the school will be working on some fundraising efforts as well and other partnerships that may be involved. And we'll keep you, the maintenance staff will keep you updated as that project moves along. But we are excited to be able to offer the first of its kind at the middle school level, some really necessary outdoor space and outdoor opportunities for special needs students.
What's the total amount they need for that?
Their estimation, that's a good question, because their estimation is based on about a $50,000 project, but that project had not been completely designed. Our goal was to try to get the initial foundation, fencing, lighting, all the security type measures for that, and then they would be adding pieces at a time based on the needs of the program there. But I believe that was $50,000 was their estimate. Other projects you see on the list, you'll hear me talk more about Cameron Park Elementary School, but last year we put funding in place to do a couple different projects at Cameron Park. One of those was to start working on the exterior surfacing. We have stucco that is absorbing water on the building, and it's one of several exterior projects on the building envelope at the school. And so we have that money programmed to begin this year for the initial assessment, and then the work will start just as soon as we get a direction as to the solution and type of exterior we want to put back on the building. And those plans, because of the nature both from aesthetics and from just the historical value, we'll keep the board and the staff knows to keep the board informed to make sure you're involved in that process before the exterior of the building would be changed, whether it's in the type of material that's used or colors. I have strictly informed them to make sure that you're involved in that process. So you don't drive by and get surprised. Other projects you can see, we're continuing CW Stanford, cold storage units, steamers. We did add a piece of landscape equipment for the maintenance department. It's approximately $35,000, and that would help keep fence lines clear, shrubs, brush, and other items, debris removal, especially when we have storms. We'll be able to mulch and take care of a lot of that debris removal. Where now, when we have it in bulk, we have to haul it to the landfills, and obviously there's fees, and it just doesn't help the environment. where we'll be able to chip and mulch right on site. We've been able to rent equipment, but it's more economical long-term if we're able to have the equipment on site versus renting it as a week at a time. Athletic fields, facility reserves, you see that has been modified. We reduced the funding there because for project-specific areas such as the tennis court at Orange High School, track resurfacing and other areas, we already have earmarked funds, and that allowed us to have additional funds freed up so we could do the outdoor learning classroom and some of the other newer projects. We feel comfortable moving forward next year with $100,000 in reserves for athletic facilities. And sometimes what will happen is unexpected drainage issues, scoreboard issues, track surfacing, that allows us to have reserves for unanticipated expenditures on fields, making those safe for corporate drive property. I have added additional $190,000 by changing the priority on projects that were based on the timing of what we have, considering that we have the additional bond funds. We have money for older facilities. We do have additional repairs that we're anticipating on corporate drive. You've been in the front building there, and so we have some money that's been reserved for a couple years, but wanted to add additional funds in CIP if that would be necessary for this year. All of the technology money in CIP, I really won't give an in-depth discussion of that because I'm using the exact same funding dollars and the same programming for CIP technology funds that's been in the district. So those numbers are consistent throughout the project plan, but I'm sure if you have any questions, Mr. Jones would be more than happy to let you know how the CIP money is used for technology. Parking lots and driveways, we did reduce that down because we had an additional infusion of $250,000 in parking lots this year. And because of the weather, between all the rain in the fall, the early cold weather, the snow in December, and issues, we're just behind on the parking lot project. So we felt that money could be better used next year as we continue to fund the projects currently taking place. On the next page, on page 2, again, we'll continue with our school safety initiatives. And also, you can see we start getting into some of the roof replacement projects. And one of those I'll talk about in the next presentation is Orange High School, $295,000 for additional roof projects there. And then the third page is a rundown of the bond projects. And let me skip a couple pages here so we're on the same page. And I did want to walk through the bond projects scheduled for fiscal year 20 starting next year. We'll continue looking at AL standback roof replacements. Although I didn't list AL standback for roofs next year, we just have money programmed for those. We'll be working in year 2, and those will actually be completed when the additional money comes in year 3. So you'll see some gaps in funding, and sometimes it's just not enough to do the project in that year. And so when there's multi-year funding, you wait until you're fully funded, and then we're able to move forward. We did talk about in November a high priority need for Cameron Park Elementary School. We moved the mechanical system up in our funding schedule due to indoor air quality and moisture concerns within the building, and so we'll be working on getting those plans and designs back for your approval this spring. We're continuing and we'll be working towards the classroom wing addition. We currently are over 100% capacity at our high school level when you combine the number of seats available between the two high schools. Cedar Ridge High School is over capacity. We'll be adding 500 seats to Cedar Ridge High School. That's projects anticipated to start this summer. We'll be working on getting the bids back for construction. Those will come back to you later this spring, and then we would start construction this summer. It's approximately 18 to 20 months of construction, and then that would have the building open and any time delays, so the building would be open in 2 years. And then the next project, again, is school safety initiatives. You can see we have multi-year funding there, and that was just modified so we could move projects around, the Cameron Park project around with higher priority, and we still have additional funds to cover our safety initiatives moving forward. Again, we'll start to pick up money for Hillsborough Elementary School roofs, and we'll be working on those next year, not this year. And I'll talk more about the roof projects. And then again, the Cameron Park Elementary School was an additional $1 million of funding. We discussed and talked about a series of needs at Cameron Park Elementary School, and I've got a list of needs here. I'll just kind of mention what that money is going to be utilized for. We have a project in place to look at redoing windows at the schools. We have front entrance, storefront entrances, both the front and the rear of the school, that need to be replaced. Kitchen and cafeteria dining improvements, floor finishing, light upgrades, and then structural redesign of roof sections 9, 10, and 11. And I can point those out more to you when I pull the map up on the roof projects. But those roofs at the northern side here of the building are just not structurally sound. So when we tried to design roofs last year, we weren't able to do that, and there's structural work that needs to be done before we can design a roof to go on top. We're going to take advantage of the streetscape upgrade that needs to happen there, as well as you look into the school from the street into the loading dock, into the trash receptacles, and all the other things you see at the end of the school. This is a great opportunity as you're designing new structures that need to support those 3 roofs to tie that in with a much cleaner look and a safer entranceway there as well, that has a sliding gate or some type of enclosure so that there's a separation for individuals that would be coming up. And then we talked about the stucco, the veneer siding as well. So just a whole host of projects there. You know, our older facilities, we've done work the last several years at Eflin Cheeks Elementary School with parking lots, media center, gym renovations. We did work likewise at Central Elementary School. We've done a tremendous amount of roof projects there, parking lot, media center renovations, and you know, the next older school on our list was Cameron Park, and it's time, and there's just a tremendous amount. But we still have, you know, we know from our facilities assessment, we still have a tremendous amount of projects to be funded within the district. I did want to just mention, you know, how do we come up with the priorities of projects on the list? We did have a comprehensive facility study done in 2013. We had a Safe Havens International do a security assessment on the district, so a lot of our safety initiatives will be accomplishing those concerns and securing entrances and entryways into buildings. We had a roof assessment that was done in 2016. We had a paving assessment that was done in 2017, and then we're constantly reviewing the needs of the older buildings to ensure that anything that's dealing with life, health, safety, environmental controls, etc., are completed as well. I'll kind of pause there. Questions or comments about the year 1 recommendations for fiscal year 20 for next year?
Yes, Sarah.
I just have one question, which may be for Mr. Jones, I don't know, but clarifying the technology debt service item, I see there's, over the course of 5 years, that's like close to $3 billion. What is the technology?
So those are for the one-to-one Chromebooks
Okay.
that we finance over a 4-year cycle, which is typically our cycle of replenishment, both the Chromebooks and teacher laptops.
Okay, so this is basically the Chromebook and teacher laptop sort of budget. Okay.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, I wanted to praise you once again. You recognized there was an issue going on in Cameron Park, and you took decisive action to deal with that issue, and I want to thank you. I know the staff at Cameron Park appreciates them. And the landscape issue, the scenic drive issue, has been coming to the board's attention here for time immemorial. From realtors too. They just think, you know, it detracts from the entire neighborhood. But when Cameron Park was built, I believe that roadway was dirt. It wasn't, you know, St. Mary's Road. was not paved back then. For those of you who weren't around Orange County in mid-70s, Miller Road wasn't paved, it was a dirt road, you remember that?
I remember it was a dirt road.
So there were 390 dirt roads in Orange County back then. We've come a long way since then. But your proposal, if you're gonna do that restructuring of the roof line, that's the time to get those dumpsters out of there.
Oh, God,
That's
it's
a
such an
horrible
eyesore.
and bare pipes, rusty pipes, resting on 5-gallon cans. Get rid of all of that stuff and give it an eye appeal. Everybody deserves it, the school and the community.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot, okay.
I did want to mention, so that's the current year going forward, and just so there's no confusion, folks listening or hearing the presentation this evening about what about other projects that have been funded. We're still working on those projects as well. We mentioned the corporate drive work. There's still a sign project to be completed at Orange High School. You know, when you drive on Cedar Ridge High School campus, there's architectural signs that were part of the original design directing you, and we know that's a project that's still on the list to be completed for Orange High School, so that you have the signs as well, especially with our new connector and other buildings, so that will be done. Eflin Cheeks Elementary School has scheduled as part of the safety upgrades to review and look at a redesign of the front entrance there. That's a very unique design, and I'll just leave it at that, entering the school and how that works. Security vestibules at many of our schools, and then I mentioned earlier the tennis courts at Orange High School. Central Elementary School, we have a brick veneer project there that we'll be working on, and then we have a tremendous amount of mechanical HVAC systems. If you look at the bond list, 75% of our schools over the life of the bond, which is 7 years, have a need to have mechanical systems replaced. That tells you we have aging, we have older facilities within the district. So Cameron Park, Hillsborough, Grady Brown, Central, Eflin, Ale, Stanback, and New Hope all are scheduled to have mechanical systems replaced now over the next 3.5 to 4 years. So there'll be some disruptions and there'll be some work to be completed. And just like the Orange High School projects with mobile units and scheduling, there's just, as you mentioned, there's just not that much time when buildings aren't in use in order to do overhauls of mechanical systems. So there's still a tremendous amount of work to be done. So those are just the additional capital projects I wanted to mention.
Speaking of mechanical systems, I think it's blowing cold air in here right now.
Yeah, that's what I was.
It's coming on my head over here.
Can you push
It
that?
come over his
We've had
head.
it malfunctioned twice today, so.
I thought it was a good time to bring it up.
Yeah.
We
I was
have
feeling that.
worked twice today on that in my pocket.
Head's freezing over here.
I know.
He's trying to speed up the meeting.
I know, he said no midnight for him.
Your week blocker here. I did it.
All right.
Okay, yes, sir.
So the next project, I wanted to walk through our capital roof projects for this year. Again, there's several roofs that still need to be completed that are not on this list that we're certainly using our bond funds to assist us with, but we did recommend Cameron Park Elementary School, Central Elementary School, and Orange High School as our highest priority needs for this year. About 3 roof projects. It's a tremendous amount of work working with contractors, working on scheduling, working on shifting summer programs, and work to be done in buildings, and we just really are limited with the amount of projects we can take on, especially large-scale projects. You already heard me mention a couple other large projects taking place. So we really just felt we could successfully do limited roof projects. And I just wanted to walk through each one to let you know what we are completing, what we've looked at for this year. Sectors 4 and 3, you can see 3 is just a little entranceway canopy, but sector 4, you can tell by the Google map there, this is a couple years old, but you can just see the difference in the roof. So that's our primary, would be what we would call our base bids. And then we'll take alternate bids on sectors 2, 1, and then 9, 10, and 11 is that front of the school that I already mentioned, and that will be, alternates will do, but we won't do that until we get the structural pieces in place. But we would like to go ahead and do 2 and 1. 2 is a 4-classroom section of the building at the lower end of the school, and it just helps us if we can go ahead and complete those 2 at the same time while we're mobilizing crews and equipment. Again, the way we look at it is we'll look at our budget. If our budget allows and we get good bids in and we're able to do Sector 2 this year, we will. If not, then we'll wait for additional funding until we're able to do that. And then we've previously completed this year that really bad section 13, 6, and 7 have all been completed, and we did a couple repairs. So to the main entrance canopy, it looks much better going into the school. So those are that's the Cameron Park roof projects. If I can flip to my notes here, I will tell you, because we are asking for approval, and I do have, when we talk about contracts, I do have an updated and revised contract for you, for your attention this evening. But Cameron Park Elementary School, the design service fees is $36,765 for the design work for those roof sectors. Central Elementary School, last year we did A2, which was over the media center. We didn't want to do those nice renovations without having the roof protected over top of it. We did put in a partition, creating 2 new roof sections between A1 and A2. Not only helped us last year based on what we were able to accomplish in the budget, but for future years it now allows you the option to complete A1 and A2 at the same time, or as funding and need arises, you can complete one section or the other, because they truly are 2 separate roof sections now. A1 definitely needs to be completed, so that's on our primary bid, and then sector 9 is over just beyond the cafeteria area in the schools. We'll take alternate bids on sector 5, which is the dining area over at Central Elementary School, and then if available, we do sector 10, which is just a small mechanical boiler room, and if we don't reach that project this year, you know, we wouldn't do it. And then as you see, we've completed a bunch of other sectors there, and we are just about finished with all the roof projects at Central Elementary School. So the roof structures will be in great shape over there. The last one I'm not at, oh, I'm sorry, and for Central Elementary School, the cost there is $43,560 for the design services. I'm mentioning Orange High School. You have previously approved the design services for this building last year. We were not able to complete the roof projects based on everything else that was taking place with geothermal and other projects on the site campus. So this year we are going to go forward and get the bids for those roof sectors that were designed. Our primary bids this year would be sector 6, 11, 12, and 17. 17 is the gym area. 6 and 12 are up at the front area of the school, just beyond the Panthers Den. And then if there's available funding, we'll do the additional section over near the gym, and then come back and pick up a couple smaller roof sections that are outside the area there. One is over the end of like an awning area, 24, and then 26 is actually the field house. And so on that one, we would just put a metal roof design on it. But we want to try primarily, you know, we're going by roofs that were graded, ones that are failing or near to be failing, getting those completed before they fail, and then that way we're staying in order as the roofs were projected to be completed. Again, this one's been previously approved by the board. So if we go back to our 2 projects, I know there was a question regarding the contract, and our team at Tharrington Smith has sent us a revised contract. We did have an outdated contract, so we have updated that, and here is I'll pass these out. This is an updated contract And I think it takes out some of the language that was a question.
Yes, thank you. You need one card?
I do.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah, we're good.
We'll submit this revised one to the RAI engineers for their approval, and if they have any concerns, then we will work through and negotiate, but my recommendation would be, if you are inclined to approve the action item on here, that you would approve it subject to final approval from the board attorney as to the language.
All right. So, if we are to approve it, it will be subject to the revisions that are recommended by the Board of Attorney.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So adopted. Thank you very much. Well, who's next?
Yes, who?
Mr. Patrick, Anthony Show. Todd said he is just going to get every bit out of you.
All I can
Every last minute.
Jeez.
The next policy we have before you is 4125. As you mentioned earlier in your comments, we had a student assignment planning meeting that was held on January 7th. Part of that was to review and help inform staff, especially the superintendent. It is a responsibility of the policy that the superintendent develop and bring back to the board, subject to approval and review, student assignment plans. And part of our policy has board goals and board targets that are utilized as part of that process, and things that we value and things that we would want to try to ensure is within the student assignment plan as it's being made. Inside 4125, student assignment and transfers. And so there are 4 areas that we talked about as a board, and you reaffirmed those 4 areas. And as you mentioned, what was the highest ranking for student achievement, the highest ranking of the items was student achievement. And you asked for us to review policy, and we worked through policy. So we're bringing back before you this evening comments that you had regarding the policies and what it means for each of these factors within each one. So under student assignment, we added as a consideration the balanced student achievement and developing student attendance lines. Student populations at each school will provide an optimal opportunity for academic success for all students. And then we have the following factors: minimizing high concentrations of low-performing students at each school, promoting socioeconomic diversity at each school, and developing school attendance lines and priorities at any magnet or choice schools in a way that is consistent with minimizing high concentrations of low-performing schools across the district.
Yes.
Questions or comments? And we'll take each one of these just to make sure we have captured your feedback as designated.
One thing I'm realizing here is, I'm wondering if where it says low-performing schools, we meant low-performing students, minimizing high concentrations of low-performing students across the district? Because the part right above that says minimizing high concentration of low-performing students. The way it reads right now kind of seems like concentrations of low-performing schools in certain, I'm just wondering if that's like a miswriting of what we meant.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think that could read high concentrations of low-performing students. I think that would probably be more consistent with.
That was the intent when we talked about it?
It's designed to really implement the factors above it, particularly the one that says minimizing high concentrations of low-performing students.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that would work.
Okay, so we will strike through schools and we will revise that to say students.
Okay.
The next factor for consideration.
Before you move
Oh,
forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we, and you know, I have to say, that's one person. Are we comfortable? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
It's good to check, no,
Yeah,
that is
I'm
absolutely.
gonna do it. All right, keep it moving.
The next was stability. We have provided additional clarity as far as stability as a consideration to balancing stability and developing student attendance lines. Student assignment plans will include the following limited options. To the extent practical, a student who is reassigned will be provided an opportunity to stay at the current school for one additional year if it is the terminal grade for an elementary or middle school grades 5 and 8, and the student's sibling will be provided an opportunity to attend the same school for the 1 year period and for an additional year if it's the terminal grade. So you're noting that the preference there is on the terminal grades in 1 year if it's a sibling. Number bullet 2, to the extent practical, any student currently in high school who is reassigned from an existing school to an existing school will be provided an opportunity to stay at this current school until the terminal grade, which is grade 12. So if you're currently enrolled in one of our high schools, then and you're reassigned, you can stay at that high school through grade 12. And then bullet 3, additional opportunities to remain at the current school, including for siblings, may be included in the student enrollment plan. It's non-specific here, but it does provide the superintendent an opportunity and the board an opportunity to consider as plans are being developed if there's space or there's an opportunity for additional options for those just to be considered. It's not meant to as a bullet to be super specific at this point, but it just is an opportunity without coming back to change policy to add if you would like that language included. Okay?
Okay.
And then 4, a change in domicile does not preserve the previous school assignment. So as individuals move, then we're just noting that may not and does not preserve the school assignment that they have.
Right.
Board in favor?
Are you all?
That's good.
I see heads.
All right.
All right.
Next is proximity. As a consideration to balance proximity of home to school distances in developing student attendance lines, base school assignments will be within a reasonable distance of the student's home. And adopting base attendance areas, the board will consider as a factor, minimizing the splitting of neighborhoods.
Okay.
Good.
Are you all right? We'll just keep it going and I'll watch the board.
Yes, ma'am. Operational efficiency. As a consideration to balance operational efficiency in developing attendance lines, assignments will optimize the use of school facilities and transportation resources. Factors for consideration include minimizing undercapacity schools, minimizing overcrowded schools, minimizing duplication of services, maximizing transportation efficiencies, and minimizing the need for mobile classrooms. And those are the 4 considerations that we discussed in helping to the superintendent guide him in developing the student assignment plan.
And just as a reminder, this is here with a recommended waiver of second reading.
Oh, yeah.
Motion to approve.
With the recommendation.
With the recommendations.
To waive second reading.
Okay,
Second.
so we're done with the red. All right, we have, in discussion. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, thank you. Very good.
Mr. Ively?
We appreciate that.
You sure you don't want to come back?
Well, you know, that's the advantage of having the committee meetings. You know, you do all the work in the committee.
It's down there, but you sure you don't want to come back?
Thank you.
Patrick, wait a minute. Do you think we're gonna let you just leave? No, you're gonna have to walk around here
There you go.
at the request of the attorney and shake our hands.
Thank you very much. I remember you from Little Washington.
Patrick Show.
Thank you all.
No, it's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we approved that, so I guess we're not all the Patrick Show. Now we're up to Superintendent District goals.
Madam Chair, if it's okay, I'm gonna keep my seat tonight, because
I
I'm not
don't
gonna,
know.
unless you'd like
No,
for me
no,
to go
no,
to the
no.
podium.
I'm just, no.
When I discussed this item with the chair and the vice, I'm not gonna read back through everything that I did the last time we were together. I'm just gonna hit some high spots where some adjustments were made. If you look in the goals under student discipline, the very first bullet there, there was some ask for specificity on when training would be completed. I just wanna let you know sort of why there's not a finite date there right now. As you're aware, we approved the contract for engaging schools just a month ago, so we're still working on the training plan. Some of that is also because you see I've made sure we cover everybody so that you're aware. Administrators, teachers, teacher assistants, and bus drivers will complete additional training on restorative practices to prepare for the implementation of the Code of Conduct. Based on days that we have for professional development, that training will happen over a course of days, spring, summer, when we come back at the start of the year, given the group. But it is our goal to have that training complete before the new Code of Conduct is implemented. Some groups are more challenging to get than others based on days that they're available to work, but we're still working through that plan. Did add in the third bullet there, reduce the disproportionate use of suspension for African American and Hispanic students by 10%. When I looked at our data and how it had either stayed flat or increased over time, and consulted with a couple folks in the district, we felt like that was a reasonable goal in year one and would be a substantial reduction in suspensions. While 10% doesn't feel like a lot, it could be a substantial reduction in suspensions within those given subgroups. Again, the equity plan, I still left as early fall of 2019. When I say early fall, I'm thinking September, October in our presentation of the equity plan. You know, approving and presenting that is still contingent on a lot of variables, obviously, stakeholder involvement, the work that we do internally. There's also a portion of that that will be contingent on budget work that we do as a board this spring in preparing our budget and our asks that will be needed, and the funding that I believe will be needed to fully implement an equity plan. Student reassignment went unchanged. I do want to hit on the last goal there, which was around communication. I did talk last time about transitioning our website from being locally developed, managed to a third-party group. That's really important for us. Number one, it will provide us so many more automation type features within the district. It's also right now, while we have a super talented web designer, we are very dependent on one individual to do web design within the district, which he's a talented individual, and we certainly would not want to position ourselves as a district to not be prepared if we were to lose that single employee. So Seth and I talked for quite a while. Seth tracks Google Analytics, he and his team, on a regular basis, and right now we track, I didn't go into too great a detail there, but we track page reports. So we have really good data on which pages are most often visited on our website, and even how our users arrive at those particular pages. So we know if they're getting there through a search, if they have it bookmarked and they go back there regularly. All that information Seth and his team use. We also know what types of devices that our folks are using when they access our website. All these things, if you're familiar with Google Analytics, but they certainly help us in how we design the website, the type of information, how we organize content, all of that, so it's manageable and digestible for the public. So the transition, why it's so important, so a lot of that will be like baseline data for us right now. Because what we don't have in the transition with the third-party features, we'll be able to really track the personal experience that a user has. So now, with a third-party provider, they'll be able to customize sort of what they see from the website, whether it's for their school or for the district website. So they can customize what particular calendars they see, what types of notifications they get. We'll have much better access to how we get feedback through forms and different ways on the website. So that's a really different shift for us from just really tracking how people are showing up on the website to moving toward how they really interact with the website. And by us tracking how they customize their experience, that tells us exactly which pages we need to spend more time on, where we can push out more really pertinent information, because that's where the public's going most often. And when people give us analytics on how they personalize it, that tells us what our community wants out of us as well. So it was difficult to put kind of benchmark metrics that I feel like I could fairly be evaluated on at this point when we kind of have baseline data and now we're moving toward a really different experience.
Can I just ask you one question, since we're talking about the website? Do you think that through this service, there might be a way that we can highlight teacher websites from our main page also, so that when parents want to track like homework and calendars and things that their teachers are sharing, it's a little more accessible and continuity across the system?
Yeah, something you want to hit that?
Yes, and that'll also build in with the app as well that's offered by the services. I don't know if you know about the Orange High School app.
I've heard about it.
So it's really cool. I don't go to Orange High, but I downloaded it because I wanted to follow it.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Same offering, so you see a
Yes.
board member,
Yeah, it's
that
good.
same, that
It's
same
good.
offering that will be there as well, where parents get notifications based on their own parameters, which is pretty cool, cause I get
That's
on there
very
and I
cool.
see stuff from Miss Gaddy's class or another teacher's class, so it's really neat.
Okay,
So it's a
awesome.
personalized experience, and that's really where, so much of digital engagement is going now, with the focus on engagement, not just digital. We're beyond the whole digital transition, we're more to what's the user experience, how do you engage with us, and what do we do once we find out how you engage with us.
And this will be a process
Thank you.
for us. I mean, we'll start with the district website, we'll move out to school websites, and then down into how teachers are using it as well. Because we know we have inconsistency right now. Some teachers, you know, Weebly, some Google Classroom, some, and frankly, we haven't mandated at this point, all shall use this particular one. But we know for a parent, it makes a whole lot more sense for it to be a consistent experience.
Right, I think especially for parents who are not tech savvy, to have
Absolutely.
continuity would really
Right.
enhance the experience. But,
Yeah,
thanks.
sure.
All right. Do we have any questions, Will?
I just have one. So what's the time frame for the transition of the website? Is that the September time frame too, or?
We anticipate the district website transitioning this spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then we're working on a project plan right now of how that transitions to schools at that point.
Perfect.
That's great, so thank you, Dr. Work. So if we don't have additional questions, this is an action item, and we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, these are all approved. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, let me know by side of aye.
Right.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Dr. Ward. It
Could
is
I ask one
approved.
question?
Yes,
before?
sir. Sir.
When you bring forth that additional information, would you also include in that, because I'm not familiar with a lot of this stuff, I don't know what they're doing at Orange right now with respect to parents being able to access information. What are the safety protocols built in where outside people can't get access to our kids? You know, this young woman who was rescued the other day after being kidnapped and her parents slain has really weighed heavily on me, because I don't know how this guy pinpointed that child, 13 years old. But this is a concern I have on the outside world being able to get access to our inside world, and we need to make sure we're able to protect our inside world as much as we can.
I can certainly have Todd provide
Good.
how we're providing data
Okay.
security in the
Well,
district right now.
That's good. Well, just.
Not tonight.
just
Not
before-
tonight, no, I
Yeah,
didn't- I
yeah,
didn't
not
do
tonight,
that.
not tonight.
So-
Well, just before leaving home, he just said he was riding behind the bus, he saw her get off. That's how, it wasn't anything technological.
So that's what, tonight they said that?
He just saw her get off the
Well, he
bus.
spotted her somewhere.
Yeah, he spotted her off the bus, yeah.
So I would say that, what you're asking for is called PIM. This is the personal information management. And I would say if they could bring it back in that format, that's kind of the industry standard to understand, hey, when you gather personal information, how is it protected? Who has access to it? How long do you have access? And that way it'll be consistent when we get that information.
Well, I asked that for a specific reason. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We used to use student social security numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we had some lessons to learn from
Yeah.
all that. We weren't the only school system doing that.
Sent them all the way.
That was an identifier at the state level.
Right.
So we're learning, but asking questions relevant to safety, I think, are always appropriate.
And one minor thing I just wanted to highlight that the board may or may not have realized that Dr. Wirt was saying, is this first transition is just the district website. The
Right.
teachers and the individual schools will be later TBD. So
Right.
you won't see that transition for a little while, but at least we'll see it at the district
Right.
level first.
Right.
That's correct.
You got it. All right, now, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So move, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Good night.
We are adjourned, thank you.
It's the fastest board meeting ever.
I know, we're gonna have Patrick in charge of board meetings always.
That's not true. We had some dismissed at 8 o'clock.